47 past the hour. Joining us now, House Democratic Whip, Congressman Steny Hoyer of Maryland. And Steny, I'm glad you're here because there might be a few people on this set who think I was a little strident on this Cotton and the letter that the Republicans sent to Tehran.
I'm emailing Tom right now apologizing for you.
Do you think it was just a tiny bit destructive, undermining, and stupid?
I shared your view.
Thank you.
I think it was ill-advised. It was sophomoric in many ways.
Sophomoric, yes.
And I think that it gave comfort to our enemies and pause to our allies. You know, Lincoln said, a house divided against itself cannot stand. And you've got the President of the United States, who is our chief negotiator under the Constitution, talking and trying to get to a place that I think all of us want to get to, that is a non-nuclear armed Iran. We're in the last throes of those negotiations, and 47 senators interject themselves into this in a totally inappropriate, unprecedented way. I think it was very unfortunate.
What do you think the motivation could have been to do that? Because there are many other ways to make your point. I mean, that's what Washington's about, the debate, and, you know, often, you know, two sides don't agree on how to deal with a problem, and maybe give some points to their argument.
Unfortunately, even in terms of national security, we're seeing partisanship injected way beyond what it ought to be. We see this letter from the 47 senators. We see 167 members of the House last week vote against keeping the Department of Homeland Security open over the objection of their leaders.
So this Iran letter, Mickey keeps saying it's unprecedented. Do you think it's unprecedented?
I think it's unprecedented. I can't think of a specific example. There may be.
Can I give you one? Sure. All right. You remember the Dear Commandant letter written in 1984? Were you in Congress in 1984?
I was. I wasn't on that letter.
You were on the letter?
No, I wasn't on that.
Oh, good. So you remember the letter. Yeah. So they wrote the communist leader of Nicaragua and thanked him for all the good work he was doing down there. And this letter clearly violates the constitutional separation of powers. It's at best unwise. It's at illegal.
So let me say, if there is a precedent, it's a bad precedent.
But it did happen.
Right.
You remember it. We remember them writing Noriega. It was stupid when Democrats did it, and it could be stupid when Republicans did it.
It is a stupid policy in a democracy to try to negotiate directly with an enemy in opposition to the President of the United States, Republican or Democrat.
Whether it's Iran or communist in Nicaragua.
We can have a vigorous, and appropriately should have, a vigorous debate here in Congress, here at home, about whether we're following good policy or bad policy. But we don't write to the other side. Clearly, I think Iran is correctly viewed as an enemy, and I think that was very, very unfortunate. I think Senator Cotton and the 46 members who signed that letter. Mr. Corker rightfully did not sign the letter. A number of other Republicans thought it was not good policy.
So, Congressman, the letter aside, let's get to the issue that it sought to address, which is Iran getting a nuclear weapon. What would a good deal look like to you? Because obviously Republicans, Israel is not comfortable with what's being floated, this 10-year pause in the development of nuclear material.
Well, as you probably know, I've been pretty hard line on the fact that our policy is prevention. Prevention means they don't get a nuclear weapon. They don't have the capability to construct a nuclear weapon. And I agree with Tony Blinken that any deal that we reach to accomplish that objective must be accompanied by the most intrusive verification process perhaps that has ever been installed in any country. And absent that, we can't trust the Iranians to follow an agreement.
And you probably know more about the deal, the details of it, than we do right here. Are you comfortable? Does it go far enough, what's being talked about right now?
Well, I don't think I'm comfortable enough to know exactly what the deal is. I do know that I've been urging the administration to follow its original premise, no nuclear armed capability Iranians.
Period.
And I think that that view is shared by everybody in the Middle East other than Iran. So this is, and it's shared by the United Nations. So this is a view that is expressed by the world, and the P5+6 ought to accomplish that objective. And if we can't, frankly, there ought not to be a deal.
By the way, Mika, for those historians out there who want to know who signed that letter, Jim Wright, actually, the Democratic Majority Leader, signed the letter, and the communist leader of Nicaragua was assured that it was written in the spirit of hopefulness and goodwill, and they regret relations between Nicaragua and Washington weren't better, and they stressed they would oppose all further money for rebel campaigns against the communists.
That doesn't make this right.
I didn't say it did.
Right.
You've been saying it's unprecedented for the past week. I think this is much worse.
I think this is really as bad as it gets.
Joe, the real question, though, is should they have done this? You know, did somebody do it before? Should they have done it? And the answer is I think they shouldn't have done this.
I think
at a very critical time in these negotiations, and we hope we'll get to where we get.
I think they should have paid attention to their chairman. I think they should have paid more attention to Bob Corker. And, you know, because Bob's trying to do something on his own that actually has bipartisan support. I'd love to have this debated in the Senate and have a vote in the Senate.
I think Senator Corker brings some judgment and some common sense to this discussion.
Just like you and me.
Steny Hoyer, thank you very much for coming on this morning.
Good to see you as always.
It's always good to be here.
All right. We'll see you in Washington soon.
Yeah.
Still ahead. Yeah, we'll be there next